So, one thing I've had a bit of trouble phrasing in a meaningful way is the concept of, whew, what would we call it? Genre themes. This is not to say that every genre has only one theme or only one set of themes, but there are themes that are more inherent to genres than others. Explaining that is difficult without using examples. And we have Sanka here. Oh, hello. Coming to say hello. So I'll use the cosmic genre or meta genre or whatever, again, as we talked about. I will use that. I'm a bit out of breath, sorry. I will use that as an example. One of the one of the themes is the whole things are too big for you to really understand and definitely too big for you to tackle directly in any way. But that's very inherent to the genre. That's basically what it's about. But a theme that is kind of layered on top of that, and which a lot of cosmic stories tend to skip over because it's everything is optional, but themes are especially optional if you just want to have a quick story. You don't need the theme so much. Um, but a theme can add a lot of feeling, a lot of ideas to a genre, and a theme of the cosmic genre is existential dread. Not only are things really, really huge and beyond your scope, above your pay grade or whatever you want to call it, but they also have an effect on how you view your own existence, existential. And that view is usually not that positive, hence existential dread. There is a sense of imminent mortality tied to it, but that's part of the horror genre in general. And in cosmic genre, if it's cosmic horror, it's definitely there. If it's other cosmic genres, it's more of a sense of imminent mortality more than actual imminent mortality. It's the idea that you will die without this ever being truly resolved. This death may be a death that comes soon, or it may be a death that comes farther down the line, but this is so much bigger than you, i.e., cosmic, that you cannot expect one measly lifetime to make an impact on it. Even if that lifetime is greatly extended by technology or magic or what have you, the cosmic events and entities are so beyond your mortal scope that your inevitable death, in one way or another, comes into the equation. And if you lean hard into this, you can end up with a story that portrays this, that magnifies the message, so to speak, in which you see the existential consequences for others in your own quest. For example, if you're doing it as an investigation, if it's an investigation story into mysteries tied to these cosmic events, you may well find that people have been born, lived their entire long life, and died investigating these things. And not because of their own lacks or fallibilities, but because of the scope and because of how long the timeline for cosmic events and entities are they have no chance to ever get through it in their lifetimes. You may discover the journals of someone who started out very, very young, perhaps a bit younger than the main character, and worked on this mystery effectively and productively, very effectively, very productively, perhaps even for an entire life that spanned maybe up to 100 years, maybe more than 100 years. Maybe you're dealing with entities that can live beyond that. Maybe maybe you break into the dragon's den only to find that the dragon is not there right now, but the signs of what the dragon has been doing with its last 5,000 years are there, and it has been doing what you're trying to do in your mortal lifetime, and it only got so far. So there's this concept of you will die even beyond the dangers you are getting into. You will die without this being resolved, at least on a greater level. You will die before these events come to an end. This cannot be done within your life. And for some characters, that might result in a twisted view of what they are doing because the hopelessness and the scale and scope of it all, um, as has been discussed, this is bigger than anyone. But the existential dread of it, of that scale and scope, messes with their minds, and things like death or injury or eternity or whatever starts to come unraveled. People may be more than willing to sacrifice themselves in horrible ways in order to get things done because when it's already beyond the scope of their lives, maybe their lives matter less in the big equation of it all. The existential dread can be summed up in the notion that your life is just a very, 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 very small dot in a very, 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 very big picture. And you have to figure out how to relate to that. And everybody involved has to figure that out. So the theme of existential dread can be expressed in a multitude of ways where people act out of desperation or perhaps even out of a calm acceptance of things that are beyond their control. Or maybe they just go insane or are helped, pushed towards some form of insanity, like the cultists that are common in cosmic stories, and do things that seem to make absolutely no sense unless you view it through the lens of cosmic existential dread. And what's unusual about themes compared to other things in genres is that they speak more to the reader than the story. They cause things to happen in the story. They cause characters to react in certain ways. They cause events to unfold in certain ways. But what a theme really does is tap into something inside the reader or the audience, whatever kind of audience that is, and asks questions or puts up reminders of things that they have not thought about. Maybe maybe they don't really feel that comfortable thinking about it, but doing it through a story makes it easier, or at least makes it interesting enough that they don't shy away from it. We don't like to think about our own mortality, but if it's put in the perspective of huge cosmic events, maybe it becomes easier to accept at least discussing it or at least thinking about it. And other genres have other themes. Something that comes to mind is cyberpunk's theme of social inequality, which can be hammered home really carelessly by just showing rich people as stock cardboard villains, or it can be shown through, as I talked about previously, it can be shown through the opportunities, the possible actions available to characters, what they're forced into, what they can do or cannot do, and what will make most sense for them to do. Someone on the poor end of social inequality will be struggling to make ends meet, and will probably do things that someone who had a better choice in life would not. And that can be expressed through the situations they find themselves in, or the kind of person they are, or the kind of decisions they make. And other genres have their own themes too, but very often we skip over them in favor of just some glossy castles and dragons and magic, or spaceships and cyborgs or whatever, because those are easier to digest. But themes can leave a greater impact in the audience, perhaps precisely because they're not as easy to digest. And finding a theme in a genre and expressing that theme well can make a simple story into a memorable and impactful narrative. So, knowing themes is good, but being able to discover and portray themes that maybe someone else hasn't thought about can be even better, because it makes people realize things about the genre and about themselves that they might not have realized before. One thing that comes to mind here is fantasy, in which themes are often allowed to slip into the background or just slip away because it's all about the fantastic nature of the world and a lot of crazy names for a lot of crazy places and people and things, and events and magics and items and whatever. So it's very easy for deeper themes to slip away. But a theme like simplicity is good, complexity is evil is very common in fantasy. And playing with that theme can be interesting. For example, what happens when you have someone close to the hero and vital to the hero's quest who is very complex, who is not the usual heroic villainous black and white that fantasy so loves. That kind of slips into the supernatural stories of monsters that are not really monsters, and was the real monster human kind all along. Things like that. Taking a theme, exploring it, and perhaps letting that be one of the things that you twist, as spoken about previously. But yeah, themes are hard to explain without examples, but the cosmic genre definitely has something like existential dread as a, if not common, at least at least often seen theme. It also has others, hopelessness and stuff like that, which I may get into later. But yeah, existential dread, big theme in cosmic stories. And we'll keep it at that for now.